Every single time I review a Dresden Files book, one of the comments is, well, the next book is the best in the series. Especially when it comes to this one. I had that quite a bit. So did it live up to it? Let's talk about it. Fear is a part of life. It's a warning mechanism. You run into something you totally don't get and it's scary as hell. But once you learn something about it, it gets easier to handle. Knowledge counters fear. It always has. Fear tells you when there's danger around. Its job is to help you survive, not cripple you into being unable to do it. Time after time, history demonstrates that when people do not want to believe in something, well, they have enormous skills of ignoring it altogether. In the action business, you don't want to say you ran like a mouse, you call it taking cover. It's more heroic. Because when you do something stupid and die, it's pathetic. When you do something stupid and survive it, well, then you get to call it impressive or heroic. Well, heroism doesn't pay very well. I try to be cold-blooded and money-oriented, but I just keep screwing it up. Hey, what's up, bookworms and Dresden fans? Mike back again to talk more Dresden Files, and this time it is the 7th adventure with Harry Dresden. It is Deadbeat by Jim Butcher. Now, guys, if you don't know by now, my Dresden Files videos are all spoilers. I did the books 1 and 2 review, as well as why I decided to read videos. I'll link those for you to go back to and check out if you want to. Those were out spoilers. Those are the ones where I try to sell you on the series. But starting with book number 3, Grave Peril, I've decided to go full spoilers because a lot of people that have read this series are using these videos as kind of a refresher for themselves as the run-up to Peace Talks happens, and that is this July, and then we get another Dresden book in September. So my plan, guys, is I plan to really put the pedal to the metal on this. I got a couple of Wheel of Time books I'm finishing as well. After I finish those, it is just straight pedal to the metal to finish these probably before the end of May. And that way I was on the list for an advanced reader copy of Peace Talks. Don't know if that's going to happen because of this whole lockdown thing that's going right now. I don't know if publishers are operating as usual, since they are not considered a essential business. So I don't really know how that's going to work right now. But that is the plan going forward. But I just want to let you know offhand, this will have spoilers for the first 7 Dresden Files books. So be cautious if you don't want to know anything or whatever. Now, I do want to say up front that I did say in my weekly update video that a lot of people hype this book up for me quite a bit. I see it consistently listed on top 3 in the series for them. A lot of people have told me, because Death Mask was my favorite so far, and they're like, oh, it will be until you get to Deadbeat. Deadbeat's going to be your favorite. I'll tell you up front, no, it is not better than Death Mask for me. However, that doesn't mean it's bad. I don't think a single one of these books in the series has been bad yet. And that's impressive. 7 books into a series. I don't feel like anything's been bloated. I don't feel like there's been any characters that weren't important. I don't feel like there's been any storylines that haven't been important. However, when I went through my list of this, I saw, holy hell, a lot more happened in this book than I thought. Because I just take notes as I go along. I don't do a script or anything like that. I just take notes when big moments happen, and that's what I mention here, and talk about what I was thinking while I was reading them. So if I leave things out, there's going to be things I leave out, because like I said, I went through my notes and could not believe how much I had. So I'm going to leave lots of things out of this review. So I know I'm going to get the comment about, hey, why'd you leave this out? Why'd you leave out this character, that character, this character? Because, guys, I just had to condense it, or else this video was going to be an hour long. So that's also, I want to kick this off by saying, I left out last time by accident, even though I had it in my notes. But when I did my review for Blood Rights, I forgot to mention Harry getting his hand wrecked. Obviously, I knew that was something that was very, very important, so it was a complete accident when I left it out. It was something I realized in the editing bay, and then I was like, well, it's too late now. I'm not going to go back and record an extra snippet to talk about that. So I talked about it in the comments. So that's what happened there. So that said, obviously we knew that was going to play big into this one. And this one kind of kicks off with you seeing that Harry and Thomas, let's just say Thomas hasn't been the ideal roommate. He's basically running like a brothel here, because he's pretty much, I think as Harry calls him, a sex vampire, because he's just like so super attractive that women just kind of, resonate to him, and that's kind of how he feeds. But he's struggling to adapt. He can't hold down a job because he's always hungry. He's trying to adapt to, to human living at this point, but, he still has to feed to not go crazy or whatever. And I'm surprised kind of Harry's letting it go on, honestly. I mean, I know he knows he's got to eat, but he can't feel good about it, especially it going on at his place. It's something that I feel like would make a very stressful living situation out of them. And I feel like that kind of shows early. And something they kind of teased at the beginning of this one is something I've been saying in a few of the last videos, is that I really appreciate the relationship that Harry and Karen are making with each other. I feel like they really have grown into great friends. And I've said, I'm not saying I want them to have a romantic relationship or anything, but I felt like it was hinted at in the last one. He was starting to notice her more, obviously. A lot of people say, men and women can't be friends. Go back to the whole When Harry Met Sally thing. I think that's a great movie, by the way. And say that that men and women, especially if they're attractive, can't be just friends. So it was one of those things I felt like it was going to happen eventually. Because let's talk about it here. In Harry Dresden's world, apparently there are no women that aren't beautiful, right? I mean, this is like the CW or something. Everyone's beautiful. But he talks about how attractive she is, stuff like that. And he sounds like he's interested in pursuing a relationship with her. And Thomas is like, well, why don't you just ask her out? But we're inside his head. We know how he feels, but of course he tells Thomas, oh, it's not like that with us. But he's super freaking jealous when she calls and asks if he'll water her plants while she's in Hawaii for vacation with Kincaid. Wow. All right. So that was surprising there. But yeah, so Murphy kind of sits this one out. She isn't really in this book. And something that I want to talk about before I forget about it is I think what makes these books so good, it makes his universe feel so lived in, is all of his side characters, they aren't in every book. And as much as there's sometimes where I'll be like, I really wish Michael was in this book, or I wish Marcone was in this book, I appreciate that they're not in every book, because people get busy doing other things. And I feel like it keeps Butcher from having this ever-expanding cast and feeling like he has to give everyone something to do in each book. I think it's a great idea. It really, really is. Obviously, Thomas is going to be more important now since he lives with Harry, so you're going to see him probably every book. But, as much as I want to see Michael, or I want to see Marcone, or any of the side characters, or Murphy, you don't have to see him every book, and I can appreciate that. Like I said, it makes it feel like a more lived-in universe. So I wanted to talk about that before I get there, even though I was kind of upset that Marcone, I was like, oh yeah, Marcone's in this one, and he was in it basically for a paragraph. So anyway, is it weird that I like Marcone? I don't know. I think Marcone and Michael are probably my favorite side characters, and Thomas and Bob. And see, that was the thing. You can just keep going like this. That's just so great about this. All these side characters are terrific. And I gotta say, Butters is probably added to the list now, right? Let's talk about why. So Harry receives a message with some incriminating photos of Murphy, and he gets told a location to meet him at to talk about. And this is stuff that happened in Blood Rights. You can watch that review if you need a refresher on what those events were with Murphy. And he goes out there, and we find out, just like everybody could tell at the end of Blood Rights, that Mavra was not actually dead. I don't think that someone was supposed to be this powerful was actually going to be killed that easily. So yeah, she's alive, and she is saying she's got a lock of Murphy's hair, and saying that she can fuck her life up if Harry doesn't do what she wants him to do. And apparently she wants him to find this thing called the Word of Kimmler. No more other details than that. That's about it. But that he's not allowed to ask for outside help or whatever. It's got to just be something that he does. So Harry does what he always does. He consults Bob, and Bob gives him a little background about Kimmler. Tells him he was responsible, I think, for World War I, and you find out that he used to be one of Bob's previous owners. Whoever has possession of Bob is his owner. And Justin, that was the guy who took care of Harry. That was the guy that was taking care of Harry before he snapped. That he actually had Bob after that, and that's how Harry ended up with Bob. But Bob has memories of Kimmler locked away, and Harry orders him to remember them. And Bob tells him about the word of Kimmler, about necromancy and all that stuff. But then he goes super evil, and the only thing that really saves Harry is he has that thing where he can just tell him that end the conversation, and then he tells him forget about it. Don't remember these anymore. If you're going to go super evil. So it's the first time I felt like there was some real development for Bob, actually, where you see that I've always felt like he's very morally gray, and if he's actually referring to someone as evil, that's quite a big deal. But saying that, he might not be all Mr. Nice Buddy Chummy like he acts like or whatever. And I thought that was a nice touch. I mean, you always knew that he was there, obviously, against his will. He's always asking Harry if he can leave his body and go do things, usually like go to strip clubs and stuff. But it was a nice little added layer, I think, to Bob's character. And I appreciate that. Getting little bits at a time. And something I'll say about the ending is I kind of wished that it had kind of ended on a cliffhanger with Bob. I wish that maybe he had actually been taken by someone else, and that might have been like a big deal. But I'll get to that a little later. I'm jumping ahead of myself here. So Harry starts looking into some of these recent deaths that could be used for necromancy. That's when we get back to with Waldo Butters, a character that was introduced, I believe it was Blood Masks, Death Masks, these names. But a character that I thought was very interesting, and to know that this is basically going to be like his buddy cop book. This is going to be like his adventure with Harry. And I feel like that's kind of like the formula at this point is we take a secondary character and they get to kind of have an adventure with Harry. And I think that's a great way to build your characters. It really, really is. And again, man, Butcher just gets better at writing every book, I think. And I think that's why everybody tells me that every book is the next one is the best one, is because Butcher just gets better. And I think that's why the series just gets better. But Waldo brings up Harry's hand and tells him that it's healing in a way that it shouldn't be able to. And we knew that wizards have like some perks or whatever, but that's interesting that Harry's hand, hopefully it will be able to return to normal eventually, right? But right now he's got a Luke Skywalker glove and walking around with that thing on. And that makes sense. That's what you'd be able to do, right? But then they're like, boom, a necromancer, I think his name is Grivane, he walks in with a bunch of zombie servants and starts just like wrecking shop. And you're like, whoa, what's going on here? And it turns out they're there for Butters. And we don't know why or whatever. But Harry escapes with Butters, and Harry breaks the window for Butters, basically telling him, all that stuff you thought was, just fairy tales, it's all real. Vampires, demons, supernatural, all that stuff, magic. It's all real. And, Butters, man of science, of course, he's having a hard time dealing with all this, as anyone really, really would. But he finally kind of comes around as he takes him back to his apartment. And right now I'm just thinking, what in the hell would anybody want with Butters? He's just like doing autopsies and stuff. What would anybody want with him? But what Harry notices that there was a book that Gervain was carrying. Die Lieder Erlking. My German is not so great, so we'll just say the book from now on. But Harry goes to Bach Ordered Books, and he meets a woman named Sheila, who is, you guessed it, totally beautiful, right? But something that I always talk about every one of these reviews is that everybody, oh, Harry's so chauvinist. Look, guys find even decent looking women attractive. It happens. So that doesn't bother me at all. I just think it's funny that it's like Wheel of Time. It's like, wow, every one of these women that we meet are just knockouts, right? But this, it's a first person story told from a guy's point of view, and a guy that, let's be honest, has been kind of hard up since Susan left. So yeah, I'm pretty sure you go like a couple of months without even getting any attention from women, you start thinking that a 5 is about an 8, okay? So I kind of look at it like that. Again, moving on. But she helps him find the book Die Lieder Erlking. It's the last time I'm going to say it. I think it means like Song of the Earl King or something like that. But Harry is jumped on the way out by these two hooded and cloaked wizards that want the book. They don't want to fight, they just want the book. So Harry says, nah. So they start fighting, and Cowl and Kumori is her name. Cal obviously is the more important one here because we've realized that Harry's blown away by how strong this dude is, and he's pretty much getting his ass kicked. But something that kind of keeps kind of subtly being mentioned here is that Harry's feeling a lot more aggressive lately, and he's feeling like he just wants to burn shit up, right? But he's scared to use fire right now because of his hand. Like at one point with Bob points out that he won't even use his Fuego spell to light his candles down the cellar when he's talking to him. So the fact that he actually uses something called Hellfire here, you know that there's something crazy going on. So uses that, distracts Cal long enough to drop a car on him, but he gets away. Wow, kind of. And we do reintroduce some characters. We meet the Alphas again, and they kind of take care of them. I'm just not going to kind of go with that because, guys, like I said, I got to get through this. There's a lot to talk about. So the Alphas are in there, and I'm always happy to see them. But later on after this, Harry's asleep when he's recovering, and he's visited by his dead father. And Harry just thinks, oh, it's just a dream, and tells him, no, it's really me. And apparently he's saying that his exact words are that I've crossed over now because someone else moved first. And I wrote that down because I'm like, that's curious. What does that mean? Someone else moved first. Don't really have an answer right now. I don't have a theory or anything like that about it. But I did have a theory about his dad at the end of this. And if it says his dad's name, I just can't remember it. So I just kept writing Harry's dad in my notes. So sorry about that, Dad. But Harry and Thomas kind of have like a bonding moment that I actually really appreciate in this. You know, they go to the park and run together and talk about things. And Thomas is trying to explain to Harry about why this is so difficult for him, and trying to explain to him, you have no idea what this thirst I have is like, what it's like living with it. He's like, well, then tell me. And he's like, okay, I'll tell you what. Let's have a race. You know, as brothers, right? Let's have a race, and whoever, if you win the race, then I'll tell you. And obviously, you know that there's more to this. Thomas is trying to prove a point here. So they win this. Harry wins this race, and he's super thirsty after the race, and he gets some Gatorade to get it, and Thomas comes up and slaps it out of his hand. And he's like, what the hell? And he's like, that's what my thirst is like. You know, running a race and then not being able to take a drink afterwards. And that is a very good way to put it. It's a very good, life lesson, I think, for Harry to realize kind of what that's like for Thomas and understand that this can't be easy for him, and to maybe, cut him some slack. Because Thomas really does take on the role of like older brother caring for a younger brother, right? In this story, I think, at one point, he's always trying to make sure he's got enough to eat. Kind of like a overprotective mother there. Oh, you eating something? You get enough to eat? He's the one who's, later on he drugs his drink with drugs so he'll get some sleep, things like that. So I appreciate Thomas. I already like Thomas the character, but I like Thomas the roommate even more. And there's a really big part coming up that I'll talk about that I really like. But I want to stay on my notes here. So his detectiving, as he calls it, it leads him to the Field Museum, and it's the first of like 3 mentions about the T-Rex skeleton named Sue that's actually like supposed to be the certified as the actual oldest bones. There's no fabrication to them. They're actually like real. They're legit. And I'm like, well, he sure keeps making a point about mentioning these bones. So I think that they're going to play into the story somehow. Didn't happen quite like I expected. But I will say, guys, when it did happen, it didn't stun me because I have seen the T-shirt of Harry on the back of a T-Rex. So I knew something. Actually, I think what it was is when I was watching a Doctor Who episode a couple years ago about, I think it was called like Dinosaurs in Space or something like that. And you have the Doctor actually jump on the back of a Triceratops. And I was talking about how hilarious it was. And someone said Dresden Files did it first. And they sent me a picture of Harry on the back of a T-Rex. Like, oh, okay, I haven't ever read that before, but that seems wild. So there it is. I don't actually know which came first. I believe this came first. What year is this? What year are we in here? Don't know. I don't know where that year is on this book. Anyhow, you guys can tell me in the comments which one was first. I'm sure it was this, because that was the 11th Doctor, so it couldn't have been that old. Anyhow, I'll talk about Doctor Who some other time. Long story short, Butters ends up examining one of the recently deceased, and he finds a jump drive in it. And on this jump drive has this 16-digit number that they can't figure out. Is this a credit card or what? They have no idea what it is. So that's the little thinker for this book. Sheila from the bookstore calls Harry and asks him to meet her at the bookstore, and she asks him out. And at this point, I start thinking about, all these modern reviewers see these problems with Harry, and I'm thinking, yo, this guy he is in his sexual prime, and he is basically not gotten with anybody in, 3 years now? Since Susan went away? So I'm like, cut the guy some slack, okay? Anyway, so she basically asks him out. He even admits that, even Thomas brings up that, you never ask, you never talk about, you never go up and talk to women or anything, So, yeah, I'm like, hey, cool. Go, Harry. You got a date, man. That's awesome. Super. So I'm like, okay, Sheila, maybe she's the next big thing, right? Yeah. So a really humorous part of this book is when Butters, because of Harry being like that, being, kind of a loner at this point, he thinks that Harry and Thomas are lovers. And the funniest thing about it is that Thomas kind of rolls with it. When Butters brings it up, if you were, he's saying that, we're friends, and Butters like, so if we're friends, how comes you never told me? Told me you what? That you're gay. He's like, whoa, and the funniest thing is that Butters says, I'm not even gay, and look at Thomas, he's gorgeous. I understand. So it was just really funny, but it really capped it off as that Thomas plays along with it after this is said, and he brings Harry tea and he kisses him on the head. I thought it was really well done. So it's one of those things where I've said the banter is some of my favorite parts of these books, and that's something that was really, really well done. But Gervain and the zombies attack his apartment out of nowhere, and they're basically trying to tell Butters, to man up here, get some courage. And it brings up the whole thing about Polka will never die. And it's just such a great moment. I wish I'd wrote the whole thing down, the whole speech to him about we're not gonna die because this has to happen, this got to happen, and Oktoberfest has got to happen because Polka will never die. Because he plays in a polka band, and it's something that you would think in any other series that's ridiculous, but in this it's just fantastic. It's just fantastic. I want a shirt that says Polka will never die. I think I'm going to have my wife make that. That's up there with I Win Again, Lose Theron for me. It's just, I can't stop saying it. Polka will never die. It's so fun. But Butters does get captured, so Harry has to make a deal for Butters. I'm going to say trades the numbers for him just to make this review a little shorter. There's more to it than that, but I'll kind of touch on a character in a little bit. But they escape, and they regroup at Murphy's house because, Murphy asked Harry to water her plants while she was gone, so he's got a key to her place. But he's taking a bath, and he dreams of Lashiel. Now, Lashiel is the coin from the end of Death Mask that he touched and buried in his cellar. Lashiel is the entity that is attached to that, the Denarian. And we get actually our first glimpse of her. Of course, she's beautiful. Right? Why not? But she offers some power, and that's how it starts. He even says, that's how it starts. You offer me a little bit of power, and then you say you can help me with this, and next thing you know, you want to be free and all that. So he declines the power, and Harry then visits again with Sheila, and they kiss, and they both refrain from it going any further, even though they both want to, and I'm like, why? Nobody does this, But he goes to McAnally's and has a meeting with the wardens. And the wardens are basically the magic police, if you will. It's Morgan is actually one of them. We actually find out his name is Donald Morgan. That's interesting. Harry finds it kind of amusing, and I kind of chuckle at it too. Donald Morgan. So there's that. He's there. He still hates Murphy. Murphy. He still hates Harry. I said Murphy. No idea why I said Murphy. Because I wrote it wrong on my notes. So he still hates Harry. But you meet other people. Lucio is obviously the captain. I want to bring her name up because she is important later. I'm not mentioning a lot of other names because there's just too many right now to get into. And I'm sure they'll come up again, so future reviews we'll probably talk about this. But long story short, they've kind of gotten their ass kicked recently by the Red Court. And this is the first time I'm like, whoa, okay. I thought that this was just kind of a thing that the White Council was going to handle this fine. It was something that it was like an annoyance to them more than it was like a fear of actually losing this thing. So the fact that they actually got their ass kicked a little bit, and then you find out that the Red Court vampires actually chased some of these wardens into the Nevernever, and they summoned these things called outsiders, and outsiders are these demons that only can be summoned by wizards. So they're thinking, we've got a mole within the White Council. And this is something that actually has been speculated on. I think if it wasn't last book, it was the beginning of it. It was early on in this book that there are others with people within the council that aren't quite clean. So they decide they are so hard up for help, they raise Harry to a warden. And Harry's like, no, bro, that is not what I signed up for. You know, you guys basically hate me. You guys have been terrified of me ever since I was a child. And you know, obviously the stuff that he learned from Ebenezer in Death Mask. Was it Death Mask or was it Blood Rights? I don't know. I'm reading these so fast. They're kind of bleeding together. But he's like, I don't want this. And they're like, we're not asking you. Basically, we're telling you. You know, and look at this as your opportunity to prove you aren't the things that Morgan says you are. You know, and that kind of gets it. And Harry meets one of the other younger Warrens. I think his name is Ramirez, and basically finds out that like all the younger wizards, they love Harry. They think he's great, and I think that kind of strokes his ego enough to be like, oh, okay, cool. I'm the next generation loves me, kind of thing. You know, the old guard can be the old guard, but the next generation loves me. I might be reading that wrong. That's just kind of how I took it. That Harry's kind of, you know, hey, cool, you know. You find out that the younger kids like you. It's kind of neat. But they have another run-in with Cal that ends with Bob getting stolen. And that's what I kind of talked about earlier, is I kind of thought that this was something that was going to run the course line over a couple of these books. And I said that, you know, I appreciate that each one has its case, and then you have your arcs that keep going each book. But I feel like we're reaching the point in the series where you can have some storylines that don't get closed off each book. And I thought that Bob getting stolen was going to be one that kind of went longer. But no, it's not to be. It's not to be. He revisits Sheila thinking she might be in trouble. And they're talking, and this was the biggest mindfuck of the book for me. Because something that people always say to me is, oh, you didn't see that coming? I saw that coming. No, I don't see a lot of things coming because, guys, when I read a story, I am there for the story. I am along for the ride. I'm just having a good time. I'm not trying to figure out everything that's happening before it happens. That's not the type of reader I am. I want the story to be told to me. I don't want to tell the story what's up. So, no, I did not see this coming. Sheila isn't real. She is actually like Lashiel basically putting images in Harry's mind, because Butters comes in and was like, who are you talking to? And Harry's like, what do you mean? It really, really caught me off guard. First, I thought, okay, she's a ghost. This is like Sixth Sense here. You know, she's a ghost or whatever. But it's Lashiel doing this, and it's crazy. You find that Lashiel can put like any image in his mind that she wants. So she tries bargaining with him that, you know, if I wanted to actually hurt you or kill you, I could have done it already. You know, but I want to work with you. So planting them seeds, baby. Just devil's advocate here. Just planting them seeds slowly. So it turns out Sheila isn't real, and when she offers her powers again, he turns them down, and Butters discovers that the numbers are GPS coordinates, which brings him back to the Field Museum, and he finds the word of Kimmler inside the skull of Sue. And I'm like, okay, there. That's why we kept bringing up Sue all the time, right? But Gervain arrives, he subdues Harry, makes him think he's like covered in snakes or something like that, and he gives him to his second, which Harry has deemed liver spots. He keeps saying the whole book, this guy looks really familiar. Who is this? And I had no idea. I kept thinking it was going to be like some kind of sick twist and it was going to be like Ebenezer or something like that. I had no idea who this guy actually was. But he turns out to be Quentin Cassius, is, if you remember from Death Mask, he was the Denarian, the snake dude who Harry beat with a baseball bat to find out what was going on with Nicodemus, what his final plan was, or whatever. And I hadn't given a second thought to this guy. I couldn't even remember if he was alive or not. So yeah, that one actually surprised me. And it turns out, like, once he had his coin taken away, he started aging really, really fast. So he wants Harry's coin. He's like, Lashiel wouldn't be my first choice, but it's better than probably dying within the next year because age is catching up to me since I've had my coin taken away. He starts torturing him for its whereabouts. Harry won't tell him where it's actually hidden. He talks about these other wizards who've had coins or whatnot. Not wizards, but just other people who have had possessions of coins, and they like actually hid them like inside their body and stuff like that. And so he starts cutting into him or whatever. But Butters and Mouse come to the rescue. Butters has finally found his courage. He jumps on his back. Mouse fucks up one of the snakes, and Mouse actually has Cassius in his death bite, and he's about to... Is that what it's called? A death bite? He has a death bite? Did I just make that up? I don't think I made that up. That has to be a word, right? Death bite? Anyhow, that's what I'm calling it, a death bite. And by the way, Mouse is just awesome in this book. But before Harry tells him, kill him, and Cassius uses a death curse on Harry, telling him to, quote, die alone. And I'm like, maybe it's because I'm reading Harry Potter to my kid at the same time right now. I'm like, oh, death curse. Is this like Avada Kedavra? Is he dead? Because he does pass out, and he's visited by Lashiel again and Dark Harry. Now, if I recall correctly, is this the same version of himself that he talked to in Grave Peril? I remember at Grave Peril, he has to actually come up with something to beat Nightmare, and I'm pretty sure it was something about talking to himself. If I have the wrong book, I might. Like I said, I'm reading these so quick. So it's an interesting little twist to be able to talk to your darker side, I guess. We've all got one, right? So the fact that he can actually talk to one, and I'm like, is this actually really that, or is this just another one of these manipulations by Lashiel? But Dark Harry urges him to use Lashiel's power, set her free, and he can help save a lot of innocent lives. That's obviously something Harry can't resist, right? So he finally agrees to free her, and I'm like, bad choice, bro. Bad choice, because this is going to come back to bite him in the ass, but what could he do, right? What could he do? So with the knowledge that Lashiel gives him about the word of Kimmler and necromancy, he decides to animate the skeleton of Sue and makes her a zombie T-Rex to stop Cal. And this is a lot of fun. Any other series, this isn't working. Like I said, Polka will never die. You've got Butters on there with them beating this polka drum because they talk in the book about it. You have to use like this drum to keep the reanimated spirits or the reanimated corpses alive. So he's on the back of this thing beating this drum, and Harry's riding this zombie T-Rex. And it, again, any other series, this is a jump the shark moment. For Dresden Files, this is awesome. This is everything. This is so cool. And the fact that I had known about that, it didn't click for me that person telling me that back from the Doctor Who reference earlier. I didn't even remember it until this moment happened, so it didn't spoil it for me. That's great. That's great, because this is a crazy cool moment. But in the end, Harry is able to get through to Bob, who had actually been stolen by like I said, by Cowell. And he frees him so he can go get some help. And Bob takes control of the T-Rex, and he just fucks up everything going on and distracts Cal long enough that Harry can actually defeat him. And yes, that is the abridged version. There's much more to that. There's many more characters like Corpse Taker and things like that I'm not really going to have time to talk about. And it's not because they weren't important. It's just I'm trying to narrow this review down just a little bit here. So afterwards, he meets with Mavra, gives her the word of Kimmler, and tells her, if you try this again, you're dead. And Mavra's like, please. And he's like, please, I got this, and this now. And she's like, all right, cool. And she walks away. And as well as I do, this isn't the last we'll see of Mavra. She's a cockroach that's just going to keep popping up this whole series, I think. So in the end, Harry is talking again to his dead father, and he worries about the whole die alone curse. And Harry's dad basically gives him the Gandalf speech, what we got to decide to do is what to do with the time given to us, right? Basically, everybody dies alone. It's about how you live before that actually matters, No one goes through that. I think the line I really liked is it's a one-way door. None of us go through that door at the same time. So, all of us, you might have someone holding your hand as you die, but the actual events, you're doing that alone. But tell them that death is not the end, basically. Really good moment there. I felt like he had the good moment with his mother in Blood Rights. So getting the good moment with his father here, it's cool. It's cool, even though what I'm going to talk about here at the end, I don't think it's actually his dad. Talk about it in a minute. So Morgan and Harry come to an uneasy alliance as he's basically, because of what happened to Lucio, is that her name? What happened to her, and that Morgan's actually like the captain of the Wardens now. And begrudgingly, Morgan basically says, we're going to work together. You're going to run Chicago, but this is your region or whatever, basically. And we're going to have to work together as credits roll. And the biggest thing I'm thinking about with Harry's dad is, how is this not another manipulation from Lashiel? Because what would be, he says in the book several times that, you know, she can know things that only he even thinks about or knows, you know. They bring up the thing about the photographic memory earlier. That's how, you know. So I don't see any way that this, or not any way. I mean, it could be legit. It could be real. I mean, we've seen crazier things in this series, right? But I can't see that. What better way to manipulate Harry than, you know, using his deceased parents? I think that would be the perfect method if I'm an evil fallen angel in someone's head. You know, that's what I'm thinking. So if I'm way off, I'm way off. That's just where I'm at right now. And like I said, I don't want you guys to answer my rhetorical theories or questions. I'm just talking out loud. Remember, this is my first read through this. But there are rumors of traitors in the White Council. It never really see an identity for Cal or Komori. You know, they're always hooded and cloaked. You know, so I'm thinking, okay, it sounds like these fools are probably two-timers from the White Council. I assume that they were both killed in that last battle. I always say is that, you know, there's no body, no dead in these stories or whatever. So I don't recall seeing an actual body for them. I mean, you assume that they got killed because of the whole vortex thing and the T-Rex, but I don't know. I don't know. But that's. I'm just wondering if Cowell. I keep saying Cowell or Komori are actually someone that we've seen before that were under the hoods. You know, that would be something. That would be something. So going forward, guys, the only thing I can say is I said how much I appreciate that he's actually able to spread his characters around. But I do, in the future, the next book, I hope I get more Murphy, Michael, and Marcone. That's my 3 M's. That's the 3 characters, secondary characters I like a lot. I love Marcone. I think he is a great foil for Harry. And I think they come to uneasy alliances in the best ways. It's like when Superman and Lex Luthor have to work together begrudgingly. That's how I feel about it. It's always fun when that happens. And Michael's just the best, right? So I will break the silence here that I have already started proving guilty. I read like the first 85 pages today. So I know that there is references to Michael and Michael's family in it, and I'm assuming that he's going to be in it. So yeah, I'm in the fast lane now, and I'm not going to be able to stop these, and I don't want to because, like I said, I got to finish before Peace Talks comes out, so I can actually read that advanced reader copy if I do get it. So I want to be ready for it. As far as this book, where it stands for me, Death Mask is just a really special book for me. It had my favorite combination of villain, side characters, and in the actual like motivation. You know, so I love Nicodemus was my favorite villain so far. I loved it. It had Michael in it, and then it's just overall it was my favorite case that he's done so far. You know, with the whole Shroud. So that's tough for me to beat. Do I think that this is bad? Not at all. Like I said, I don't think there's been a bad book in this bunch yet at all. Not even close. But it would top 3 probably. But I mean, I'm only 7 books in. Saying it's a top 3 isn't that much. But I do think maybe the fandom overhypes it a little bit. But I can see why, because it sets so many things in motion. And it's probably one of those things, once I get about book 12 or 13 or so, I can probably look back and say, yeah, that all started here. And see, that's probably why. But as a first-time read, it's great. It's great, but Death Mask was definitely better for me. But again, they've all been great. I'm having a great time with them. I have not disliked anything in these books yet. So even Full Moon that everybody likes to take a crap on, I found lots of things that I liked in it. It gave me the alphas, right? So, guys, that's where I am with this. If you would to drop in the comments and you can talk spoilers, please keep it to the first 7 books because, like I said, this is my first time read, and I'm excited to talk to you guys about what has happened so far. So drop in the comments, guys, and I will talk to you there. And remember that Polka will never die.